What are the key challenges organizations face when integrating AWS Detective into their existing SIEM ecosystem, and how can these be overcome? Like,
I think
I
that
assume like AWS Detective is complementary to the SIEM based on our discussion. And please go ahead.
I would say the number one challenge is definitely integration. Similar to the point the last point that I made, integration with SIM can be challenging. As Iman said, Detective is a very good complementary service. Not to mention that since it is designed for natively designed for logs and date time format logs. It's different data formats may require some additional setup. It's not impossible, however, will not work as out of the box as SIM ecosystems.
Is-
Um, Go
is-
ahead.
I have a question for you. Last time when we were talking, I don't know if it was this service or something else. You were saying, hey, it's a new service that's Kubernetes focused. What was that one?
Kubernetes focus would be for verified access as well as um, EKS trusted access as well.
Yeah, there was a new service that you were mentioning that seemed to grab logs and everything, but it was very Kubernetes specific, as opposed to like something like CloudWatch that can just generally receive log data. But I thought maybe I'm confusing that with Detective, but it seems like Detective is not just for Kubernetes. Detective can be used for a number of services that are supported by it, if I'm not mistaken.
So yes, you are 100% correct. It is not so detective is used for a wide variety of services. However, what I've personally been noticing is a very big amount of use case being in EKS, since you would want to analyze what's causing certain issues with certain clusters or what's breaking connections or where things are certainly breaking, you would want to be able to tell the trends from the logs. So I noticed a lot of it being used in EKS. I'm sure it's being used a lot elsewhere, but it's been reported a lot more in EKS.
Ah, I see. Okay, okay. So if I can think of Detective, and correct me if I'm wrong, Detective seems like a AWS native kind of a SIM because, like I mentioned, it already understands the data formats for specific AWS service. It's got native integration, and it's aggregating those logs. And it goes further because it uses machine learning to analyze those data patterns, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that's correct. You absolutely can do that.
Cool, very
Yes.
cool, very cool. So when people are deciding what to use for detection, I guess back in the day, um, you know, the poor man's version was to use CloudWatch and aggregate the logs in there and use some of the basic rules, and then ultimately people would bring in a full-blown SIM into the environment. But it sounds like you don't really need a SIM if you use Detective, and everything is in AWS. Is that the case?
So, speaking very truthfully, if you are using a traditional pure log-based environment in a pure AWS environment, yes, you could absolutely use AWS Detective out of the box, works with everything that built
Got
that generates logs. If there is more niche use cases, not to say anything negative about them, if there are more niche use cases in regards to the types of data that's being collected, I can understand the need for a SIM to be involved.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but in general, also, I believe for alert correlation, we can use AWS Event Bridge to forward detective findings to the SIEM, and then we develop like correlation rule sets in the SIEM to kind of have like the good correlations actually.